Hello, my name is Markia Robinson. I am a trauma-informed fitness coach, and you are watching P3 on Rise Above TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who've tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today we have the pleasure of sitting with the badass Markia Robinson. She is calling herself a trauma-informed fitness coach. And I mean, don't even get me started. Anybody that's like talking on the subject of trauma in a way that's helping people use their pain and turning it into purpose and really helping themselves like absolve themselves of the past so that they can really take on the present in a way that's gonna allow them to live optimally and mindfully and all the things that I dig and stuff. So I came across her, I think it was on TikTok, Instagram, like social media, and one of her videos moved me so greatly that I shared it with several people and immediately wrote her and was like, pretty please be on P3, pretty please. Anyway, so she's here with us today. Markia, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. I appreciate you.
Yes, so you are from the East Coast, correct?
That's correct. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia.
Markia is a part of this amazing conference. It's called Empower Wellness Conference. It's all about like just living your best life. And you are going to be coming to Texas for the first time. We're going to meet. How crazy is this? I found her on social media. I reached out to her. I had already been asked to do this weekend wellness retreat in San Antonio. And they ended up showing me a list of the teachers after I had already reached out to Markia, and her name was on the list. And I kept looking at the last name and the spelling. And I'm like, holy moly, cacciatoli. When you watch her and when you hear her talk, she's very passionate about what she does. You know, there's a purity to what it is that she's doing. And that doesn't just happen by accident. So wherever you would like to start with your journey and, you know, the 3 Ps.
Right. Okay. So I guess I'll start with my story first, and then I'll kind of get into how I found my 3 Ps and then how I can, recommend other people to find their 3 Ps. But yeah, so I started weightlifting and working on my health and stuff right after college. That was like the most mentally and emotionally dark time for me. And I just didn't have the tools to, cope in a healthy way. I'll say that. So I went to the gym to kind of, try to improve myself. And I noticed as time went on that I was able to kind of build almost like, discipline and consistency, those types of things, like mental muscles, I was able to build while I was working out, right? And I was like, okay, so not only does, my arms get stronger, but my brain gets stronger too. Cool. And so what I started doing is kind of experimenting with applying what I did in the gym with other areas of my life, like my relationships or my career or school or something like that, right? And when I did that, I kind of realize that our emotions and our mental realm kind of works like our muscular system, right? It needs to be challenged in order for it to grow. And so I was like, oh my goodness, that's great. I have got to tell people about this, right? So I was super excited, super passionate, right? And that's what kind of got me into personal training and, fitness coaching and all that type of stuff. So at first I was personal training one-on-one in gyms. So I was literally at like 5 different gyms at one time. And I was trying to find ways to integrate like emotional development and emotional agility into my training. And I realized that personal training to a degree was almost like a crutch for my clients. Me being there all the time, me being their sole motivation was actually crippling them long-term, right? And so I felt like it was more valuable to teach emotional agility and mental, strength and mental discipline and those types of things than it was for me to just, teach them how to do 10 push-ups. So I quit gyms and, started Marz Fitness, and now I train completely online. And I get all the time, how are you supposed to train me, like all the way over there on the East Coast? And I'm like, we're going to do it, first of all, with you being at the foundation, right? So I start teaching people with them at the center of their life, right? So I teach them how to motivate themselves. I teach them how to discipline themselves. I teach them how to keep themselves consistent. I teach themselves how to, cope with those triggers and those stressors and all those things, so that when we're done working together, you won't need me or any other coach, right? You'll be able to grow yourself, for lack of a better word. So that's pretty much what I do now. And I freaking love it. And I would say this is probably what I'll be doing for the rest of my life. Like I could do this for forever. So I would honestly say that I found my passion. So that's my first P. But I think your P's kind of have to like build upon one another. So like I found my passion first, and that kind of opened me up to my power. So once I knew, that I was passionate about this and that I really wanted to help other women, discover this within themselves, that's what gave me the power to push through all of the fears or the comfort zone that I had in my own life, right? Because I'm an introvert. I don't think I am anyways. I'm good at talking to people and all this stuff, right? But I was like, okay, I have this thing that I'm passionate about, right? You can't just sit here by yourself with all this good information, right? So I think that passion gave me the power to push through and find my purpose, if that makes sense. So I feel like they build on one another. Now I'm sure everybody has their own order or their own sequencing as far as, what happens for them, but that's just the order it happened for me. But yeah, I definitely feel like all three of those feed each other too. So not only do they just, build on top of each other, but they also feed one another. So my passion for, I'm going to use the word wellness, and my passion for fitness and those types of things kind of marries and mixes together. And then that is what kind of makes me, want to push through, my triggers and my fears and stuff to help those people. And so I feel like that symbiotic relationship between those three things is beautiful too, like just having that. And so I feel like everybody should be cultivating these things. Like if you don't have these three things, I feel like it's very hard to have a fulfilling life. And I feel like you need to cultivate all three of these things on a multi-dimensional level. So like, I just gave you examples of how I was, mentally and emotionally passionate and powerful and, purposeful, but I have physical goals that align with that as well, right? Like I have weightlifting goals that align with my passions because I just like weightlifting, right? I have goals that align with my purpose that challenge me to become a better coach, right? Because my purpose is to lead and to empower other women. And so I feel like you have to do it on all levels. You have to do this work on the mental level, the emotional level, the physical level. And I feel like if you do that, you will be your wholest, fullest self. Like that's my goal.
We are all here to remember that we all have a P3 that is significant, and it's up to us to figure out how to once again ignite it and own it, right. Really own it. And that's a practice and that's a process, and
it's a whole process.
It really is. And I love that you holistically decided to take a look at thyself, and in your childlike curiosity and in that attitude of like, I want to figure this out. I'm going to find the solution that makes sense for me. And then what I also like too is that even though there's this heaviness to all of this, there is a playfulness and a practicalness that we can bring into this. I call it bringing levity to brevity.
I feel like you have to, especially with heavy things like this. It's hard to stay consistent with it, and it's hard to keep working at it when you don't have that light element to it. If it's heavy all the time and it's dark all the time, you're like, well, shit, man. So I definitely think it's necessary.
Like right now we're all healing childhood inner wounds and stuff.
Yes.
So, are you one of the only ones in your family, and then have others been inspired? Like, have you been alone? That is part of this trauma process. When people grow and they evolve, they end up losing, right? There's loss in friendships and family connections and things. Anything that you would like to touch on that?
Yeah. So I would argue, so I'm actually the oldest of 4 girls. So I have 3 younger sisters. And I would argue that we are the only ones that have done that work. So parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, I, at least myself, have completely detached from family because they're just not, you know how it is. It's just not the same,
Right.
There are certain things I can't tolerate anymore. There are certain things that aren't acceptable anymore. There are certain boundaries that I have to honor now, right? Because I respect myself and I respect my, my space and my relationship with myself. So I always, whenever I'm, about to burn a bridge or cut a tie or any of those things, I always ask myself, it's them or me? Do you love them more? Do you love me more? What's the answer? Right? Same thing, if you're drinking or smoking or, trying to break up with your toxic boyfriend or whatever it is, right? It's them or me. Which one do you love more?
That's so true.
So that question kind of got me through all of that. So if anybody's going through that tough process where you kind of have to cut people off, hey, it's them or me, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to get to a point in this journey where you're like, I choose me, man. Like, I choose me every time.
Yes. Our vitality is completely connected to our immunity. COVID really shook us in so many different ways, which in the positive opened our minds into how we can actually have health and fitness and like we don't, the idea of going to a gym, like it's great to go to a gym, especially just to be in that energy, but to be able to bring it into your house and understand how to do that. And then you being able to also help them with the mental muscles, emotional muscles and all of that, because you could give them all the physical things in the world, but what good will it be if energetically they're stressed? And you're helping people understand how stress is tied to their metabolism and right, and their energy levels and things like this. So that's another thing that I can really appreciate about one of the things that you said and about what's happened in the world, that it's forced us, all right, to open our minds to a lot of different things. So your drive and motivation to really step out of your comfort zone. That was the other thing you were talking about, your introvertedness. And it was almost like your soul was trying to put you on this bigger platform and you're like, whoa, Nelly.
Yeah, it was, I'm actually gonna use the word traumatic. It was slightly traumatic for me because I didn't know if it was like fear holding me back or if it was logic. Like I try to think things through a lot. So I'm like, okay, I need a plan, I need a business plan, I need this, I need to plan my content, I need to do all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And my soul, my energy was just like, no, go, just speak, open your mouth and let me speak, right? Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to do this. I don't want to, right? And I was coming up with all these excuses as to why I couldn't do that, right? And so part of my journey and part of my, lesson was learning how to trust myself and learning how to discern, the difference between, it's time to wait and it's time to plan and it's time to just go and trust and flow, right? So I feel like I'm better at it now. I'm not going to say I'm completely there.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely at the point now where like, if I feel a message coming on, or if I feel like I need to say something, I can say it without feeling like it's my responsibility to tailor that message to somebody else's emotions. That I think is what took me the longest, because I used to be a people pleaser. So getting over that and going, okay, you got a message. Yeah, that's your job. How they perceive it is not your job. Right. Yes. So, yeah,
that's so true. I've faced the same kinds of things sometimes when I put things out, I cringe and it's like, oh, do I really want to leave this video? And how is somebody going to interpret that? And it's like, you really want to try to control how people are going to receive you. And luckily it sounds like you and I've been doing a lot of that internal work and facing our fears really head on and knowing what it's coming from and discerning. I really like that you're like in your heart space.
Yes, I was just about to say that kind of ties into my purpose of things. So like at least I think I do. I feel like I know what my purpose is on a spiritual and physical level. I'm kind of like a midwife. So it's kind of my job to transition women from one space or one reality or one way of living to another, right? To a healthier, fuller, wholer way of being, right? And so that is kind of what I was discerning or comparing that moment to, right? Is this aligned with my purpose? Is this helping someone transition into a better place, into a better vibration, into a better state of being?
You have designed the interior parts of your
Right,
brain.
yourself.
Guys, y'all, when you deal with trauma, like just Google what trauma does to the brain and the nervous system. Essentially, our nervous systems got hijacked. And then the whole point of this game,
talk about.
right?
This is exactly what I'll be talking about in Texas.
Girl, you are helping people establish the relationship with themselves and their body.
You need to, you need to learn the language. Your body has a language. You need to learn it.
What are some of your self-care practices that you do for yourself? I know a lot of what you do with your clients is what you do for yourself, but is there anything extra that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. So I would say the best thing I could have done for myself was starting a morning routine and putting myself at the very top of my priority list at the very beginning of the day, right? I was so used to checking my phone, when I open my eyes, or, calling my friend or getting ready for work or whatever it is, right? And when I started doing this was actually when I had hired a business coach. So I had hired a business coach, and he's like, okay, what's the first thing you do when you wake up? I was like, I don't know. I think I check my phone. And he's like, the fact that you didn't say I spend time with myself is enough. We're going to cut that out right now. Right. And so it had just never occurred to me that I was not spending time with myself at all throughout the day. Right. And I think a lot of people do this. We think sitting on the couch and watching Netflix or scrolling through your phone or whatever is spending time with yourself or is quality time. And it is not at all. And so he kind of got me to see that not only is that time with yourself, important for, starting your day and doing all that stuff, but it keeps you healthy and it keeps you in a place where you're prioritizing your life accordingly, correctly, actually. Because I feel like a lot of people can't lose weight like they want to, or, look the way they want to look, or gain muscle, or do those fancy fitness goals because they're at the bottom of their priority list, right? I coach a lot of moms, and the biggest problem I see in moms today is that they're at the bottom of their priority list, right? And that's just the society we live in, right? That's just our time. But I stress so much to mothers that it is so important for your kids, especially, to see you prioritize yourself, to see you put yourself first, right? Even before them, okay? And this is going back to what I was saying before, sometimes I was like, oh, should I really be saying that? So, but I watched my mother extend her life by 4 years when she got diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. Wow. So watching her go, no, I can't, talk to you right now, baby. I have to, meal prep, or I have to walk, or I have to stretch, or I have to meditate, actually showed me how to love myself and how to prioritize my own needs, right? But I think it's hard at first because we've been taught, right? If you care about somebody, you put them first, right? If you love them, you do for them, right? And then you do for yourself. But you're actually doing them a disservice. You're actually doing them and yourself disservice, because you're only showing up as half yourself, right? Which means they only get 50% of whatever it was you gave them. Instead of you, doing a morning routine, or you doing whatever, filling your cup up to 100% and then giving them 100% of what you got, right? Yeah. So I think that, for me, was the biggest thing. And now, I'm actually known in my community for being happy all the time, which I never thought would be my thing. I am, I told you earlier, I'm naturally introverted. So when I'm in my own space, I'm chill and I'm mellow. I'm not super, giddy or energetic. But after I do my morning routine, that's just how I feel. I feel so full and so just charismatic. I'm I just want to love everybody.
Your well is so overflowing that it's almost and I use this word, but I'm not trying to tie it to religion, but it's this whole, to me, is wholeness. Oh yeah. And when you're in your wholeness and in that space, it's the wholeness spirit, the Holy Spirit is that of unconditional love and joy and exuberance and expressiveness and creativity. And then it just bubbles so much that then you want to love onto others. And that's what it is that we're all here to do.
That's literally what I spend all day doing. Like that's my job. I just love my clients all day. And love my little community. And it's the best freaking job on the planet. I love it.
I love it. I love that you know how to love you. We do have a brain in our heart also that they discovered, and that's our intuition.
The heart for me was what I actually wanted. Like I've always been interested in heart medicine, and finding out that our heart has its own electromagnetic field and system. And it was just crazy. I was like, what? Oh, it's so awesome.
I know.
So like, it's like translating to the emotional and the spiritual side of things. When you get that heart intelligence, it's like, it's a thing. Like it's literally the physical manifestation of your heart intelligence. Like it's just so amazing to me.
We've been disregarding our hearts and our feelings and our emotions for a really long time.
Also going to talk about this in Texas. Yes.
Exactly.
I think this is why we're so disconnected from our bodies, because we spend so much time up here. And going back to the spiritual side of things, it's just an imbalance in masculine and feminine energy, right? We live in such a masculine dominant world though, so it makes sense, right? But we're again transitioning into a new era. We're transitioning into a space where the feminine is reawakening and rising, right? And so it's my job as the midwife, right, to transition people into that space. And so we do that by reconnecting back to our body, which is the the physical representation of your feminine, your subconscious, your knowing, right?
Yes.
Your body represents all of it's like a culmination of your past, present, and future.
So speaking of self-care, obviously you have some kind of contraction on your shoulder there.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to just let people know what that's all about.
Yeah, it's just so it's a brace that kind of locks my shoulder joint in place. I had a slight tear in my rotator cuff, just messing around with family on Memorial Day and stuff. And this is a fairly common injury that happens all the time. So I'm just keeping the brace on for about 4 weeks. And then after that, I'll go into some PT and I'll be brand new.
Perfect.
This is the emotional intelligence side of fitness. It really is. You having that emotional depth and capacity to go, okay, yeah, this is my limit, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with resting, or I'm okay with being injured, or okay with doing what needs to be done to rebuild, right? I was not always that way. I definitely was not. When I was in college, for example, I literally ran on 2 broken legs.
Oh my
Not even kidding.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 2 stress fractures in both my tibias, and ran through the whole year, the whole season, because I was so stubborn. I just didn't want to, I didn't want to sit out and feel like I was missing out on everything and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was definitely in a space where I didn't have that, that connection with myself. But after beating my body up, several times, I was like, okay, we need to learn this. Okay, let's dial it back a little bit.
And that's another reason why you're so good at helping women with the martyr syndrome. So many moms, you had mentioned, the putting ourselves at the end, at the bottom of the pile of people that we tend to. And that was a conditioning and a programming that we now, as a society, get to decide if we want to go ahead and deconstruct that and create a new paradigm for what self-care and self-love actually means, and what it means to be a healthy parent, a healthy person, blah, 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 blah. So I just wanted to commend you on that, and just say a little something about connecting that dot with the mom and the martyr stuff, which goes back to people-pleasing people. So,
man,
got to deal with that crapola.
Your wounds are connected to your health. They really are. Just like your stress is connected to your health. But yeah, if you aren't looking at your people-pleasing or your martyrdom or your victimhood, right? All those things are areas where your power is leaking, right? It's leaking out. So plugging those holes is super important.
Yes, plugging the holes, sealing the cracks.
Sealing the cracks.
With 24 karat gold kimosabi. Yes. Is there anything else that you would like to maybe share or touch on before we wrap up this awesome episode? And of course, also let people know, how they can get in touch with you and everything.
Oh, yeah. I would say for anybody who's working on their P3s, their 3 Ps, right? Start with your body, okay? Start with reconnecting with your body first, because that is where a whole other pool of intelligence lies. Like, we have so much intelligence in the body, that we don't even realize we have, right? Like I would have never discovered my purpose, my passion, all of those things if I didn't first try to reconnect back with my body, right? So it starts there. If you can kind of remember who you are, kind of reassemble yourself, right? Then finding those things, finding your purpose in life, finding what you're super passionate about, right? It's going to be super easy because you know yourself, right? And you don't have any pieces of you resisting that alignment, right? So I would say reconnecting with your body is one of the most important things you'll ever do in your whole life. So if you ever feel like you need help, working through that process, you can find me on like all the social medias, mostly TikTok and Instagram. Marz Fitness is the handle, so MARZ_fitness and then _. But yeah, I am so freaking grateful to my girl Janie over here for having me. You are freaking amazing.
Thank you. I really appreciate you and all that you've been doing to help elevate, expand, uplift humanity, because here at Rise Above TV, that's what we're about. We're about empowering humanity and supporting unity. You've been doing brilliant work, and I want to wish you continued success and blessings on all of your endeavors. And I can't wait to kick it with you here in Texas.
I'm so excited.
And thank you everyone for supporting the mindfulness movement here at Rise Above TV. Your likes, shares, and follows are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. Subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels for more mindful content. Tune in next week to meet another individual who's tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. Till next time, peace be in us.